Okay, so today on the Scenic Route Podcast, we have Julissa. Julissa, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for having
good.
me.
So it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
So, for people who don't know you, can you please briefly walk us through your story? Like how did you start? How you got where you're today? What were like the pivotal crossroads, the big light bulb moments?
Yeah, how much time do we have?
I know. I always start with the easy questions. Like, give me your
Just kidding. Oh my
No,
goodness.
because I'm asking because Julissa had like a really interesting entrepreneurial journey and already nicknamed her the fire starter.
I love it. I love it. Well, wonderful to be here. Julissa, she, her pronouns. I'm the CEO and founder of Legacy HR Consulting, where we're passionate about creating workplaces where people feel supported. And my journey directly relates to that. So let's see, where do we start? I kind of fell into HR. I am a first generation American, but both my parents are from Dominican Republic.
Mhm.
And as if you're a first generation, you feel my pain in that in order to be successful in the eyes of your parents, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, like a real job, right?
Yeah,
Like,
a real job, right? And so, at that point, when I was just going into school, I decided I wanted to do pre-med. Got through most of that. I know, right? And went through that coursework and realized I didn't like blood or hospitals or chemistry. So
ideal foundation
realized,
for pre-med. Well done, Julissa.
immediately realized this is not for me, but had no idea what I wanted to do. And so then I started looking into, at that point, I was like really involved on campus in like organizing things. And I was like, I really like doing this stuff. Like even writing bylaws. Who loves writing bylaws? Which now when I look at it, I'm like, oh, human resources people do.
Yeah. So you're kind of like, okay, I'm good at organizing. I have a great rapport with people. Like,
yeah,
what can I do with that?
I like to support people. I like to help people. And so I started looking into health administration. Around my junior year, I was like, well, maybe I can get an internship in health administration. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Whereas like still kind of health related. So then my courses wouldn't go to waste. Started looking for an internship. Couldn't find one, but I did find one through Inroads, which is for first generation college students, minority college students, placing them in corporate environments. And I found a internship in HR for a financial services company. Had no idea what HR really did, honestly. And I was just like, listen, it's for the summer. I'm going to be making money. I'm going to gain experience.
Yeah,
I mean, I could be working at
like that's 2 months. So
absolutely.
I don't know, I can suck it up for 2 months.
Yeah,
just kind of like,
I was like,
what is
absolutely.
This about? Yeah,
absolutely. And that was a pivotal moment because I learned about HR. I really enjoyed it. I had a knack for it. I was really lucky that my boss at the time really took me under her wing and made sure that I had a lot of experience in HR.
That you're actually doing something and not just like copying shit.
Exactly. I mean, I did have to get her lunch, but I hope she doesn't hear this, I was like really, I was able to contribute back to the HR team as an intern, and that was exciting. And so then I started really looking at this as a career option, and I was so lucky that I found a job in HR out of college. I think I graduated in May of 2007, which, if we remember, 2007 was the crash boom.
And so it was a good year.
Yeah, I don't know, good in year 2007,
but I mean, now since we lived through 2019, 2020, 2021,
true.
What is relative? Like, probably 27, 28 was a good year.
Right. Oh my goodness. But I was very lucky that I was able to find a position because of, I worked as an HR intern in the summer, and then I worked part-time during the school year, during the week. And so I did that for 2 years. And so even though I didn't, quote unquote, graduate with an HR degree, the experience that I had, I think, was very valuable. And I was able to get a job. I think I graduated in May of 2007, but I started my full-time job April of 2007. So, And so I started in a mental health agency there, doing all of the things. I was the kind of person that I love to learn. And so anytime there was something new, they'd ask me, hey, are you interested? I started as a recruiter and our benefits person left and they're like, hey, are you interested in benefits? And I'm like, sure, why not?
Why not? Let's see what this is about.
Yeah, sure, why not? I remember like going home and like learning everything I could about benefits. And that's kind of been my career. Like, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Let's just go ahead first. And yeah. I love that attitude.
Yeah. I mean, especially out of school, like I knew that like the best thing I could do is just learn and be a part of and do whatever I can. Like I realized very quickly no one really knows what they're doing. But if you're resourceful, if you're resourceful, I don't even know. Did we have Google in 07? I can't remember when Google was a thing.
Right? Google was a thing, but like Instagram wasn't really a thing.
Yeah. I think Facebook was just coming out at that point.
Yeah, but I think on college stage only. So like,
I remember I held out for so long. I was like, Facebook. But that's something that I've used in my entire career is like, if I'm scared of it, like just try it and master it and do your best because there's so many resources out there. And that's kind of how I am as an entrepreneur, right? We got to figure it out. We got to resources. If you don't have the financial resources, you're just going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. But, I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like, you're not gonna figuring shit out by reading a book. Like it helps you. It helps you to kind of like, okay, this is like whatever theory backbone I need, and then you just gotta go out and do whatever you want to do. Yeah, you gotta implement it. I mean, you can listen to all the podcasts, watch all the YouTube videos, but if you don't, whatever.
Yeah, but if you don't implement it, like then it's just going to waste. So because so I was able to go through many different industries. A lot of my experience has been like developing the HR from the ground up. So like being a department of one and then building up the HR department. And something that was super pivotal for me, I always felt, especially as a first generation, I'm originally from New York City, from the Bronx, and then moved to Oklahoma City. So you can imagine that culture shock. And so most of my life in Oklahoma City, and then now I'm in Houston. I've been here for 6 years, but going from Bronx to Oklahoma, culture shock, and it was a pivotal age around 13 or 14 where you just want to fit in. And so, especially in the beginning of my career, I felt like I was always just really not myself, not my authentic self. And it wasn't until my last full-time position, I had an amazing boss. And I will always remember, I really truly felt like I can bring my full self to work and I felt supported. And it was just little things. Yeah, it was little things. And it's so funny because I always thought I was good at my job, but I didn't realize how much better I can be if I led authentically and transparently. And so I knew that I was onto something or that something changed or something clicked because I think my second year there, I was nominated by 4 people for like Employee of the Year. And as an HR person, you're always in the background and everyone seems to forget about you. And that's when I realized like, oh, wow, like I tried to figure out wow, something's going right here. Like what happened? Let's do it again. And for me, it was like, I felt like I could be myself. Like I didn't have to be this staunchy HR person. I didn't have to be the stigma mud or the principal.
It's actually like valuable, like, right? Like what makes you different from HR is actually, right? That is what makes you valuable, what makes you stand out, what makes you unique.
Absolutely. Yeah. And something else that was pivotal right before this employment, I was in a toxic workplace. I was really, I was in a situation where I wasn't doing well from a mental health standpoint because my mother passed away. And then I went into a toxic. And so I think that's why it was also impactful to me because I know what a positive and supportive workplace how that can change in someone's well-being overall. Like it was a completely 360. Like I never would have thought that I could start my own business or believe that I could start my own business, right? And it wasn't until like I felt like I had everything came together. I felt empowered and supported. And like, hey, I can start my own business. And so that's why we're passionate. I'm personally passionate about creating workplaces where people feel supported. Because it's a game changer. I've seen firsthand what it's done for me, and because I've shown up that way, other people have felt supported, and that has definitely contributed to the workplace. So,
what were like the key components that you felt like safe and seen, and overall feeling good in a workplace?
So I felt like I can. So one, I felt like I could tell the truth. And I felt like there was transparent communication between my supervisor and I. I felt like she would give me timely feedback, communication, and I felt like I could do the same. And I always felt like I had something, like my supervisor had my back. Like I felt like they truly cared about me as a person, as a human. And she definitely was just like that filter for us, right? And because I've been in situations where like your supervisor will throw you on the bus sometimes, right? Or it's just it doesn't feel good. You feel like a number versus like an actual human or a person. And so I think those were the things that made me feel like, and we could wear whatever we want. Our policies was very much more inclusive, and I think all of that coupled into one. And for most of my career, I felt like I couldn't get close to the team. Always felt like I had to have boundaries because I am an HR. And the people were so amazing where I was at that I was like, I cannot like become friends with these people. These people are amazing. And I did become close friends with them. And I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. 2 years later, I talk to at least one person from that workplace every day. And me and that boss were partners in business together. So it's funny, like some of the old ideology that we think as HR practitioners that we have to be thinking, and a lot of that was smashed, I feel like, in that employment. And so now I'm questioning, like, why do we do the things that we do? Why do we have policies? And that's kind of how I approach my HR work, right? Is why are we doing it? Why are you doing it?
Like we took over so many rules or ways of practice from, I don't know, oppressive systems that no longer serve us.
Absolutely. Oppressive systems that weren't meant to serve us, right?
Never. Or like just a very few of us. But like the same as one of the things is like, that just reminded me of I once was in a coaching call, or kind of like a pre-call to kind of like find out if we would match with I would match with a business coach. And it was all great. And then at one point I was like, now I know this will not be it. She was like, well, kind of like we came on the like similar, like how you made friends, and we came up with that. And I'm like, I'm basically friends with all my clients, with all my past clients. I love all my past clients.
I love that.
A lot of my past clients, I don't know, for a coffee, or like, I mean, at least the ones who are living somewhat close by. Or I don't know, I was in Ireland last week and I saw a past client because like, hey, I'm here, let's meet up. And she was like, no, you should never be friends with your clients, like boundaries. And I'm like, what? Why? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't want to marry all of them, like, but like that's cool. And I also like, I don't force it, right? Like if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's okay, right? And I have my boundaries. I have fierce as fuck boundaries. But what? Like the rule, you should not be friends with your clients. What?
Right. Or we have to show up like, and I, buttoned up all the time. And, I find that those that want me to show up that way, it's never a great engagement, and they're not my favorite clients. Right. And it just isn't meant to be. Those that I feel like I can be my authentic self and help them, like those are my favorite. And, some of them have become friends, at
that point where I'm like, I rather like, I just know, like, I don't know. I mean, everyone knows, probably feels like, I've been there, done that. Like when I started out, I mean, I took some clients who maybe were not like a 90-100% fit. Maybe we're like 50 or 60 or so, who were like okay-ish, but you're like, well, but then you're like, money in the bank is money in the bank, right? Like you're starting out, and it came back to bite me in the ass for a few times.
Same. I can't wait to tell you how I almost burned this house down. It's similar. It was because of the client.
Like the first time you burned down house, or the second time you burned?
Who knows? I'm not keeping count anymore. But that one, oh man.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah. So then, okay, so I was working somewhere, saw how like a great workplace, supportive workplace changed me 1,000. I started traveling for myself. Like it completely changed my whole viewpoint. Yeah. And 2020 came around, and my boss had left. We continued to partner together on projects. She ended up becoming an HR consultant full time, and that's when I realized, oh, I can actually do this. Like people do this. Like people actually go out on their own and do their own business. Like that's the thing. And she was doing just fine. And in 2020, July 2020, I started to think like, what's next for me? Like, I feel like I've done everything I set out to do here. I love this workplace, but it's time for me to go, right? And so I remember it was so funny because I had a meeting. I can't remember who I had the meeting with. It was a friend. And I was like, okay, I think I'm going to start making an exit strategy. I'm going to see what's out there, make a plan to start leaving. And the very next day, I promise you, I kid you not, the very next day, this is July 2020, COVID. Right. And the CFO comes to an all staff meeting and is like, hey, we're having a really tough time financially, and we need a few individuals to voluntarily lay off. And I was like, the universe, I hear you. I like something in my gut was
like loud.
This is it. You don't have a plan. Like,
you said high posters like.
And I was just like, wait, what? Like, what am I going to do? Do I get another job? Like, what does this mean? And I just knew it was time for me to go, and I took it. And the only thing I had in mind was I want to make the world, because it was around the time of the social unrest. And I was like, I want to make the world a better place utilizing my skill set of creating workplaces where people feel supported. Didn't know what the hell that meant. Didn't know like what I was going to do with that, but I was like, let's see. I started freelancing, taking on some projects.
And I mean, you felt the impact of that, right? Like you felt how much of a person you've changed, what person you became through the workplace. And especially with your background, like I feel like, go for it.
Yeah. It just was like night and day. And I was like, this is like, in my mind, I was like, maybe I can help social justice organizations create workplaces so that they can continue to do the amazing work that they're doing. Maybe I can attach myself or work with missions that I truly believe in, create workplaces where people feel supported so that they can continue to do amazing things in this world. And so in my mind, I was like, that's how I can change this world. That's my impact. That's the work that I can leave. Audacious dream, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use my gut and just continue to do what feels well. I applied for jobs. I wasn't hearing back, and then all of a sudden, I started getting projects and clients, and then started doing more research. I was like, okay, this is something that I think I could do. Like the jobs that I'm applying for, I'm not hearing back. So maybe that's not what's meant for me right now. I started to get more and more projects, and by December, I had to hire. I needed help. I hired one contractor, and then by March, I hired 2 more contractors and part-time people. And now 2 years later, we're a team of 10, full of part-time and contractors. And so, as someone who never wanted to manage, didn't really want a business. And truly just been doing like what feels good. It's kind of amazing to see like what has happened. Now it's been, as I told you earlier, it's been a hot mess along the way.
Well, but every business is a mess along the way, right? Like seriously, there's no other way. And it doesn't mean that you're a hot mess or whatever. Like that's just part of the journey. It's never smooth and slick. I don't know, because it's not cookie cutter. It's not blueprint. It's not whatever. It's like, you're out there trying shit and it's
figuring it out. Yeah, absolutely. You're just figuring it out, right? Like trying it, working it. And so, so again, growing it, I grew to the team last year, to I think 8. And then I got a client. It started out great. It was like,
oh, that them running down the house? Yes. Running down the house.
Yes. Yes. And your first year, you're just doing all of the things, just trying to see what you see what you like.
I mean, it's also a great time. Like you're always like, I mean, you're always getting on different industries or different type of clients.
Absolutely.
Kind of see like, hey, okay, do you like it? Do you not like it?
What services do we offer? What are we really good at?
Yeah,
like what do I enjoy doing? What does the team enjoy doing? So we took, we hardly ever said no. And that was a little bit part of the problem. And I'm the kind of person that I just love to help people. And so much so that I've had to have
there's a savior mentality there.
Yeah. I've had to have people like hire people to help me set my boundaries, right? Because I'm the kind of person I just want to help. I'm like, yeah, sure, I could do that. But sure, I can do that. And thankfully, my team is like,
Are you the oldest child?
Yes. The oldest child. Yes.
The oldest second generation child. Yeah, I knew. Yeah, I knew. I'm like, the sociologist in me is wondering if you're firstborn or
Yes, absolutely. So it's yes, all of the above. And that was to my detriment because some clients took advantage of that. Yes, I had one client that took advantage of it.
I'm so sorry.
I was overdoing what our contract was. And we were working really hard to help them meet their goals. And then come January, I am already used up all my savings. I'm in debt. And this person isn't paying me. Like they refused to pay the final invoice, one of the final invoices. And I think my deciding point was there was one moment where they said something really nasty to me, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I? It was one of those moments where you're like, what getting a full-time job would feel like. I just want something easy. And so I started applying for jobs, and then I actually started hearing back, and then went through one and actually ended up accepting a full-time position. And my thought process in doing that was, I don't like this business that I've built. I am working 24/7.
I'm still in debt. It's not still whatever. In debt.
My friends, I had a friend who was having a bad getting married and I couldn't do any of that because of finances. And I was going to feel real big FOMO if I wasn't able to go. So I was like, all right, I don't know what I want to do with my business. I'm not giving up yet, but I'm taking a pause. And so I let go of most of my clients. I started working full time in January. And my thought process is if I wanted to keep going, then I was just going to grow it slowly and thoughtfully. That didn't end up happening. But I literally took a pause in my business. Thankfully, my team stuck it out with me and stuck around and were able to help with the few clients that I had. But I'm going to tell you, 3 months in, and there was nothing to do with this workplace because it was a startup. It was tech. I was making great money. But something in me was like, this is not it. This is not it. I
give it a second chance.
Yeah. I was just 3 months in, I was like, if I'm going to work this hard, I prefer to work hard for something that I'm building and a legacy, which.
Yeah. Startup is hard work. Startup is not for kids.
No, not at all. And so I was like, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for my business and build something and really try. And so in June, I put in my notice and decided, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to work. And I'm telling you, it's amazing, the difference of now I was even more clear as to what we could do, what we don't do. Clear and very communicative on our boundaries. Not taking all of the things. I was clear on my ideal clients and made sure that I did my little checklist every time I had a discovery call. What were those things? Do they meet this specific criteria? And that has made and coaching. I went through an agency coaching that I'm still a part of. And that has made a total difference in where we are now, where we're serving social justice organizations who are doing amazing work, helping to build workplaces where their team feels supported. And so when I tell you words are absolutely powerful, words are powerful.
Yes, I 100% agree. That's so beautiful.
It's crazy. I just can't believe this journey, and it's not easy every day. Some days I'm like, maybe I should, but it's just every time I think about it, I think of how I felt when I was working full time earlier this year, and it's it's just not for me. It's just my heart's not in it. I'm the kind of person that I go from 0 to 100, and I cannot just go 50 or 80%. Yeah, I can't just go 50 or 80%. And so, like, if I'm going to be going 100, I want to be doing something that means something to me.
Yeah, I agree. And like, what do you feel? What changed from, oh, I never want to lead a team to I'm now leading a team of 10?
Well, I kept getting a lot of work and I was working 24/7. And so as that was happening and I saw that I was working a lot, I was like, okay, I'm going to need a team. And even before I was ready to get a team, I was like, okay, so I'm going to start making decisions as if I have a team. So like, what systems do we need? What communication systems do we need? What does my pricing need to look like now? So that I can afford to bring on team. Yeah, and so and then slowly but surely, I start to add more and more. And now I'm doing it more strategically. It's part of like my quarterly review process. Like what am I doing that I can delegate? What's the team doing they can delegate?
What are kind of like the queen bee tasks that no one else can do that but you?
Yeah, like what are our annual and quarterly goals? What do I need to be focused on? And what should we really start to delegate or outsource or hire for? And we've developed a hiring process. And so I know a lot of people are like always scared, like they think they're overwhelmed. But I feel like because we've had such success in our hiring process, that I'm just always excited, like who else are we going to bring on to the team? And just the culture that we've developed together. And it's funny is that I'm like, I can't be out here telling people that I develop workplaces where people feel supported, and I don't do that on my own. So I've been very intentional with workspace and the community that we have as a group. Even as contractors, everyone's a part of the group. And
what are kind of like the things you do for the community? I assume you work remote, most of you.
Yeah, we work remote. We have our team is everywhere in the U.S. And so some of the things that we do is being very clear about the expectations, right? I think that's super important as to like how often, being super transparent, authentic, and like clear as to what the expectations are, and clear if I know it's a hot mess, right? Like there are many times when I first started where I'm like, listen, I'm figuring this out. I'm going to be honest. I'm figuring this out. This is a mess. But we will get there together.
Any way to reduce mess, let me know.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate and welcome any and all feedback. And then really, when I'm doing my quarterly check-ins, I'm always asking like, how can I help you with your personal professional goals, right? Like really getting to know everyone as individuals, but also how you're helping me. How can I help you? And I think people are always caught off guard, especially, there was a time where I would have not hired someone if they wanted to start their own agency. Because of that scarcity mindset, or that mindset, what if they steal everything? What if they take my,
my client portfolio, my tactics, my strategies,
Absolutely. But then I think I heard something and it just resonated with me, and I've been rocking with it ever since. It's, listen, they can take your deliverables, they can take some of your clients, but you're the secret sauce in your business, and they can't take that. No. So they can take this, but they won't deliver it in the way that I do, and they won't develop the relationships that I do. And once that resonated with me, I was like, yeah, it's okay, fine. That's fine. And because I'm super transparent and I'm wanting to help people, they want to help me right back. There's just definitely a level of respect.
If you surround yourself with the right people, they want to see you succeed. Right? Like they don't want to see you fail.
Right.
And I always feel like, that shifted a lot for me too, right? Where I'm like, I'm like almost full transparency. Like people who work with me, they have access to, I have everything in Notion. They have access to everything. They can see my financials. They can see everything. Like if you work with me.
That's something else that I do, is that every week I record a video on Loom. And every week I'm telling them the discovery calls I sat in, all of the client, like I'm telling I'm telling them everything, like updates on operations, like, and even if they're contractors, everyone loves them because one, I'm intentional with like showing up. And just sharing what's going on, and they very much feel a part of, even if they're not a part of that project, everyone knows what's going on at all times. And it's just a simple,
right? Like you don't hire people who just like, I don't know, check PowerPoints for missing commas.
Right.
Like you want to have a certain scope. And so I don't know, I love what you said about the beginning, like transparent communication is so important as like a pillar of like a healthy workplace. And like I share everything, like I don't care. Like, but it wasn't always that way, right? Like it was really like was the scarcity mindset that's keeping me in.
The systems we grew up in, essentially, we were raised in. You know, I remember like, oh, can't talk about finances, or oh, let's keep secrets behind the doors, and only the board and the senior leadership are making decisions.
For talking about money. And
another thing is making sure everyone's a part of the decision-making process, right? Like those expectations that I talked about, that was a collaborative process between me and the team, right? It's like, hey, this is what we're thinking. Please tear this up. Like, what do you all think? Like, is this doable? Like, and they know that I genuinely want that feedback, right? And I'm always asking, what do you all think? How can we do this better? How can I support you better? What do you need from me?
Yeah, like, what would you wish? Like, I assume a lot of people, like anyone listening, they either they're solopreneurs, they intentionally so or not intentionally so, or working with a few freelancers, or even have like a few people part-time on staff or whatever. Like, what would you wish people would to know, like early on in their entrepreneurial journey, when it comes to even the ones who say like, oh, I don't need HR right now?
I would say, like, even if you're a solopreneur, you really need to make sure you step into that CEO role as soon as possible. Yes. I feel like even as a solopreneur, sometimes we still have that 9-to-5 mindset that if we're not working, we're not making money, or I just feel like you really have to devote time to being a CEO. And that means planning, setting aside time just for those big picture tasks, whether it's planning, reviewing metrics, even if it's just you, right? Yeah. Like planning 3-5 years out. Like, where do I want to be 3 years from now? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? And what can I start doing now to make sure I get there? I think that's the biggest thing, is really fully believe, because even I struggled when I first started in saying that I was CEO. I'd be like, oh, I'm CEO, I'm a CEO. And I was like, now, like, I am CEO and founder of Legacy HRC, and I think it's just something about like just that, like, that's the first thing, is like, feel comfortable really stepping into that CEO role, because that is truly what you are.
Why weren't you feeling comfortable stepping into the CEO role at the beginning?
Oh,
what stories were you telling yourself about being a CEO?
Can I really do this? I'm probably doing all this wrong. Do I really want to put myself out there and I fail? Can I really, like, I think it's that imposter syndrome, right? Like, can I really do this?
Fear of shame.
Yeah, who am I to think I can do this, right? Then after, and even like, it's so funny the difference. Because even when I would sit in discovery calls, then I'd be like, well, I can help you do it. And now that I've done this and I've seen the impact that we've had in the workplaces, this is how I can help you. Yeah. And it can be a fit, and I don't take it personally. Like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit for a reason.
Yes, that's so important. Knowing your goals, knowing you want to close the call, but detachment from it. If it's not meant to be with this call, it's not meant to be.
It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. But now it's so funny, because I used to be the person that when I did MLM, like what all of us did at some point, I was horrible at it. I would buy my own stuff because I felt bad, like asking people to buy. I would go in, like, I was not a salesperson. I'm like the least salesy person, but it's so interesting, like, just the level of confidence that I have since I stepped into my CEO role, seen the impact that we've had, and I know what we can do. And I know, like, what we can do and who we want to work with. And that mission alignment, I think, helps as well for us.
Do you feel like it has helped you to step into the role with the responsibility that you now have, not just for yourself, but for others?
Yeah, absolutely. And the community that we've built, right? Like, every single one of my team members, I just had someone that's onboarding today, and I have everyone do like weekly check-ins. And that was the first thing that she referenced. It's just like, wow, I felt so supported and welcomed. I can go to anyone. It's which I hate this term when workplaces use this, because I feel like it's also like a little toxic, but she said family, and I was like,
yeah,
family. I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying, but family is a shitty word because mostly it's used for like exploitative purposes.
Yes. But I was like, I get what you're saying. I'm so grateful that you feel supported and that like you can go to anyone's questions, not just me, not just our operations, but you can go to anyone, and the team is immediately there to help you, right? And so that, like, I think it's just protecting that, what we've built and the work that we've done with our clients who are just doing amazing things. Like, I love our clients and I love the work that they're doing, and I'm passionate about the work that they're doing.
See, yeah, right. So when someone comes in and like wants to build their own agency, right, let's say, and then they go out into the world and build their own amazing HR agency and also work for amazing, I don't know, environmental NGOs or whatever. It's like, that's awesome. It's even more good in the world.
Absolutely. And that's definitely my stance. Like, we can partner together. There's so, we need more women out there, and we need more, people, like, we need more people out there that believe they can do this. And I'm happy to help anyone because there's more than enough food to eat. There's more than enough food to eat. I feel like sometimes people feel like that's when that scarcity mindset comes in, where you're like, oh my God, there's not enough work out there. Like, no, trust me, there is more than enough food to eat.
Yeah. It's so interesting, right? Like how that still sometimes just kicks in, and then you really have to consciously be like, no, like slap out of it. Like it's this old story that's
these are competitors and no, these are partners. Like, like they may be at a point where they can't take on any more work and they'll refer them to you, right? Or and vice versa. If we can't take any more work, you can refer them back to other HR consulting agencies, right? Like, it's not competitive. To me, it's not competitive because we all have our own niche and our own different clients that we serve, or we should, and the different level of services that we provide, what our zones of geniuses are.
Yeah, I 100% agree, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, it's the same like for every service provider. Like when you're like, hey, if someone, like, I sometimes, like, when I'm on discovery calls with clients, I'm like, look, if we're gonna rebrand together, like, that's typically a process of working together very closely for a minimum of 3 to 6 months. And we gotta fucking like each other.
Right.
Otherwise it's gonna be really hard.
Right.
So if there's no chemistry, if there's no vibe, then
and that's okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
Like, no hard feelings. Like, let's rather decide it now, like two grown adults, like, I like you, but I don't feel it. And okay, fair enough. We don't feel it.
Yes. I'm notorious for, after getting off a discovery call and immediately scheduling I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't think we're a good fit, email. I don't want to do it like right after because it's like, whoa, but I'm like, I'm notorious.
Harsh, but yeah.
It's so funny because a year ago it was like I was saying yes to everyone, and I think because of that negative situation, I've come to realize, like, hey, it's okay not to take everyone. Like, you don't have to take everyone. If in the moment you're not feeling the chemistry, like you said, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be enjoyable. And for me, my gauge, if I'm not excited to either work on the project or work with these people, then it's probably a no. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
It's a no. Yeah, I love that. Like, I'm curious, this is not strictly HR, but you're like also in the online business world, and it's a tricky place. It's a great place. I've made many connections and friends and met people, but it's also a tricky place. Like, to you, and I know this will be of value for anyone who is newer to the online business world. To you, what's the biggest lie or like half truth that gets peddled around in the online business world?
That everything is saturated. I think that there's saturation, right? Because I think sometimes. Yeah, I think sometimes we get that imposter syndrome, like, there's not enough, there are already other HR consultants that are doing this, or there are other copywriters that are doing this, or there are other, but again,
yes, like, there are,
and they're not doing it the way that you do, because you're the secret sauce for your business, and you have your own systems and frameworks that you'll develop. It will be completely
you just have your own perspective of things, right?
Your own approach.
I mean, in like, you have your own skill set, but you also have your own essence, right? Like, I mean, you are a firstborn daughter to second generation, like, all that shaped you, right?
Absolutely,
it's all part of who you are. They're all ingredients in your secret sauce, if you want.
Absolutely. And so that's like if you really feel called to do something, I don't want the fact that you think that, it's saturated, or, I'm not going to be like, no, do it anyways. Trust me, do it anyways. I've been there, and now I'm glad that I didn't listen to those voices or that doubt.
Yeah. It's hard to not listen to those voices, right? Because they're I don't know, some voices are really loud, especially in the beginning, and you're like, okay, those people seem respected, they have a big following, like, they seem to be successful, so I'm gonna listen what they say, and it's
but now look what's happening, right? Like, even remember all the girl bosses, right? Like, girl boss this and girl boss that, and now everyone detests that, right? Like, so you just
rightly so. I'm so glad that this buzzword is finally out of the bingo. Like, oh my god, I'm like,
and the hustle and grind, and you got to do this, and now I'm seeing more of a healthier rhetoric, like,
it's slowly starting. I feel though it's still masquerading a lot of times.
Like, people aren't telling the full truths, right? Like, even like, we made $100,000 in my business. Yeah, but like, how much did you make? Right? Like, how much are you actually taking home? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
and also, like, I had a $250,000 launch. Small print. I had $180,000 in ad spend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I feel like people are just being like real, or there are a few out there that are being more and more transparent and authentic in how they're showing up on social media. And I think TikTok, is helping a lot with that too.
It does. I feel too. Yeah. But it's also like, and that's where like I see the troubles of branding, right? Like, when you really push to the forefront the personal brand, it's me, right? Like, I'm the almost solopreneur, but they have multi-million-dollar revenue and probably a team of 40.
Oh, absolutely.
Minimum, right?
And at minimum.
Exactly. And you're like, well, of course you don't have to like disclose everything. If you don't want to, that's fine. But I feel like there's such a over personal brandification that you get the idea of like, they're like running their $1 million girl boss empire on their own, and like,
right, no, they're not. or you have those that are moms, parents, and and you're like, how do they do it all? And a quote that always resonated with me is Shonda Rhimes, Year of Yes. And she mentioned like, if you see me out like succeeding in one area of my life, so if I'm doing really great with Grey's Anatomy or whatever, please know that means I'm failing somewhere else in my life.
Yeah. Oh God.
I'm going to have it 100% everywhere. Just like, so if I'm succeeding as a parent, just know my business or my work life is probably suffering, right? And just let's get this work-life balance out of our mind. I mean, you know what I mean?
I hate the word balance. I always talk more of like a blend. Work-life blend or something like,
or a flow state. You'll have those days where like you can work a lot and it feels good, and you'll have those days where you need to shut off your laptop and it's just it's okay.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what like kind of like the Scenic Route is, right? Like, it's to be at peace with that, right? Like, and some days you're just not feeling it, right? Some days your kid is sick, or you are sick, or whatever it is, right? Like, you have a death in the family, whatever, and like, the toxic corporate thing is like to push through to no, right? You're sick, go to work, I don't care. Ugh. And we still sort of keep doing that even though we're on our own, we're self-employed. Like, no, like cut it out. Like if you're feeling sick, please rest. Right,
it'll like, be here tomorrow. Like I sometimes I haven't even I have to remind myself this is not brain surgery.
It's not rocket
this
science,
is not brain surgery. People's lives are not like this is not brain surgery. If I have to go to a client and say, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna need an extension, or hey, I'm not gonna get it to you today, but I'll get it to you tomorrow. Every time I've had to do it, they're like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they know me, they know my work ethic, and they know that if I have to delay it, and it's for a reason, right? Yeah. And so I think you're right, that corporate mentality stays with us, and we have to actively ask the question, where is this coming from? You know?
All the time. Like every time you're in the trenches and you're like doing things, I don't know, take a breath and actually ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to do that?
Right. Seriously.
So often we just like play a tape and actually be like, no, actually, I don't actually want to do that. I don't. Okay. No,
right.
Cutting it out. Don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do I even like this package offering that I'm offering? No, I don't.
Right? Like the service, or like, no, I actually don't like to do website copy anymore, or to do baby portraits anymore, or whatever.
And that's okay. No one. I feel like people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you are changing. You're pivoting. Like no one cares. I don't know how many times I've seen people pivot, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? Like no one cares. No one cares.
My business coach, I had that phase too, where I'm like, but people think like, I don't know, I'm a floozy because I'm like here and here, right? And she's like, most people have the memory of a goldfish.
Right.
And I'm like,
yes. So true. So true. So true.
And even so, right? Like, just approach it with like some, I don't know, an element of curiosity and play, and see like what you did in the first year, right? Like just see, try on different clients and industries and niches, and be like, I don't know, that
go to a full-time job, almost burn it down and go to a full-time job, right?
Seriously, that's like, I mean, that's sometimes the advice I give to coaching clients, when they're when their back is to the wall and they're like, Jen, I have no fucking idea I'm going to pay rent next month. And I'm like, I'm fully convinced you will not make the long-term best business decisions if you're under pressure back against the wall.
Absolutely.
You will focus on short-term, whatever it is, to get shit done. And this is not, for most of us who are not on the hustle highway, this is not the energy we can work with. That's sustainable for us.
Right.
So sometimes I'm like, if that's what it is, like you have to get money in on any means possible, then maybe thinking about like getting a part-time job.
Absolutely.
Like a no-brainer job where you clock in, you clock out, and you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, when I went to full, because I was having financial issues, so I had run down my savings. So when I decided to leave or transition away from full-time, I was like, well, let me see if I can find a part-time. And I did, right? And then when I'm ready to leave it, I can leave it at any time, right? And so it's nice to have that stability. And it's okay. Like, everyone's journey looks completely different.
Yeah, and with that, like, I feel there's so much shame and stigma in the online business world for people who are like side hustling, part-time entrepreneurs. Like, what the fuck? You're an entrepreneur regardless. Like, I mean, I know entrepreneurs who, like the coach I work with, she works like 2 hours a day for 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Like, that's part-time by any means.
Right. And I don't have to work part-time now, but I like it because I like the people that I'm working with, and it's easy. And I'm like, but might as well
call her like a part-time entrepreneur because she's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right?
See?
So what is that shit stigma around like, oh, it's your side hustle or hobby or whatever, and you're like,
you're not making all of your income from your business, like, come on, like everyone's journey looks completely different, and everyone's race is completely different, listen, we're not
different
all
needs different levels of stability. Like, I mean, I have a client, she was like, she was always like, oh, I have to, she was always kind of like, we were coaching so that she was kind of like, she was about to leave her corporate. And then after, when we first talked, she was like, oh, I'm going to hand in my notice. And then 3 months later, she's still in corporate. And I'm like, listen, I don't tell you what to do. I honestly, at some level, I also don't care what you do, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, but I'm just curious. I want you to know the reasons why you're still in corporate. And then she's like, oh, well, I know. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to tell me about it? And I mean, out came this story of she grew up in a very poor family setting. And she was like, I just need a higher level of secure. I just need a bigger security blanket. Like I know how it was to have absolutely fucking nothing. And I cannot go back there. It doesn't feel safe. So she then, like, we worked on things like what would make her feel safe.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily
what the is money. That number? Yeah. What's that number?
It's the number, but it's also it's so many other things.
Mind shift. It's, you know, like what will make you feel more comfortable? Get more comfortable finances, period, right? Yes. Like learn everything you can about finances.
Yes, financial literacy, or like, is it, and then we also kind of like discovered, like, she was already making a fair amount of money with her business, with her entrepreneurship, but it was all project-based work. So she had spikes in income and then like super low months. And that kind of like unconsciously really stressed her. So we moved her more into like a recurring monthly revenue type of business. So she knew every month she had $2,000 coming in no matter what she did.
Nice. Right? Yeah.
So like, it's those things. You just have to understand what is really what is really like, what makes you feel expansive and what makes you like, freeze, flight, or whatever else these trauma reactions are,
and work on it, right? Like it's not gonna happen overnight, and even through the work sometimes it still creeps up, but it's like being able to like quiet the voices, centering yourself, and like, you know, whatever that means to you, whether it's going and taking a hike, being outside, meditating, whatever it is, like know what you can do to recenter yourself so that you can make better decisions, especially as a CEO.
Yes. And whatever it is, it will not be anything the wellness industry tries to sell you.
Right. Facts. It's not a pill. It's not a supplement.
It's not a $200 yoga cushion.
Here's the secret. It's within you. The answer is within you. You just got to hear it. You got to quiet the voices and what everyone else is saying to hear it.
I love this. This is a beautiful way to end this episode. It's in you and it's free. Go take it.
Right.
Hey, Julissa, it has been such an amazing conversation with you.
Yes, yes.
So tell me, where can people find you? Where do you hang out online?
Yeah, great question. So I am on Instagram. You can either find me with my personal at Julissa Martis, JULISSA MARTIS, or you can find great, and at Legacy HRC, where you can get lots of great tips on how to create workplaces where people feel supported, even as a solopreneur. And LinkedIn actually is another great place to find me at Julissa Martis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, makes sense with HR.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I always have one last question before I let my guests go. What book are you currently reading?
Oh, let me pull it up. It's The Mountain Is You, I believe. And it's all about how you, and it's so funny that a lot of it, what we just talked about, is how you are your mountain, self-sabotaging. I am horrible with that. And so it talks about recognizing where it comes from, and then recognizing how to identify, and then doing the work.
The only thing that holds me back is me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I highly recommend it. It has been, I took so many notes on my little Notion for it. So highly recommend it. The Mountain, let me see if I can get the author, so if anyone else is super interested in it. And I'm an Audible girl, so. It is The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest, Wiest.
I haven't read that one of hers. I mean, she is amazing anyway.
Like,
I haven't read that one, but life-changing was she wrote like 110 essays that will change your life.
I'm reading that next because this was so good.
I was seriously, if you, I don't know, my copy is not here at the moment. Like if you could see my copy, like seriously, every sentence is like markers. Like you see nothing but markers.
And it's funny because I'm hearing it, but you should see my little Notion. I have like tons of notes, like because I'll listen while I'm cleaning, and I'm literally like having to stop and like, oh, this is good.
That's why I love Kindle too. Yeah, that's why I love Kindle. I make notes and I highlight passages in Kindle, and it syncs my Kindle with my Notion board. So I always go through my Notion board of like, oh yeah, right there was.
Love that.
And she had a new book that's next on my list, and then I'm gonna shut up. It's called This Is How You Heal. This is next on my pile. And I'm super excited.
I'll have to add that to my list.
Yeah, she's a smart cookie. I like her. Well, hey Julissa, thank you again so much for being on the Scenic Route with me. It was a great joy.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Super happy that with the conversation and everything. And yeah, thank you for having me. That's all I have.